with gin joints and all.
Too busy living.
I watched sea beams.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
Casablanca is the greatest piece of movie making in cinematic history by far, by leaps and bounds. It is the Usain Bolt of movie making. It's about love. It's about war. It's about freedom, fighting for freedom, escaping to freedom. It's about all of those things, but it's not really about those things, is it? It's about Rick Blaine, the tavern keeper, the crusty tavern keeper in the center, I guess, of bizarre Casablanca. What a great place to have a movie in the middle of a war where the refugees are coming to. And everybody comes to Rick, says the book that this is based on says. Well, this movie could be called Everything is About Rick, because we're wondering who the hell is this guy. About 7 or 8 minutes into the movie, we start to get fascinated. And then we find out that this movie is really about the unfolding of this guy, as Shakespeare says in Hamlet. It's who is this guy? And he just starts doing things that we don't expect him to do. You know, he turns away a German official, bank official who wants to come in. And then he gets the letters of transit. And so the movie starts focusing on him. And then Ilsa and Laszlo walk in to Rick's cafe, and we're like, oh my God. And we realize there's some history there. And so we realize this guy, you know, was capable of love. And the way he treats the people working for him is fantastic. He has a friendship with the corrupt official Louis. And this movie's just got everything. And then, of course, it unfolds from there. But it's got mystery. It's got drama. I mean, how much drama do you need when you've got the threat of war, the threat of annihilation overhanging a movie? I mean, the atmosphere is fantastic. And then, of course, Strasser, the German official, represents that threatening atmosphere. And then we're led to believe that Casablanca is a refuge, but it's not really a refuge. There's a man, a freedom fighter, who gets killed in the streets just a couple of minutes into the movie. So you realize it's not a safe place. It's not a safe haven. The only safe haven in Casablanca is, ironically, a place that is run by a crusty, cynical, businesslike, almost unemotional man named Rick Blaine. He's got the haven in Casablanca. That's where everybody goes to have a good time, to do their machinations. And so that's fascinating. I mean, you're watching the movie, you're like, wow, I love this place. I love the atmosphere. This guy created this atmosphere. Wow. You know, what's underneath that hard shell of a man? And that's part of the brilliance of this movie. The writing, the directing, is that it unfolds that for us. And eventually, if we're paying attention, we realize this movie isn't about the war. It's not about the freedom fighting. It's not about the love primarily. It's about this guy. What's he going to do? What's he going to do in each minute? What's he going to say? How's he going to act? What kind of unfolding is going to occur in his personality? And of course, finally, what is he going to do at the end? Is he going to make the right decision? And the leading up to that is just utterly compelling and mysterious. You really don't know. You really don't know what he's going to do. But to back off just a little bit, in my 8 categories of movie making, Casablanca checks off all of those categories like no other movie. It's a 10 in each one of those categories. I'll be reviewing hundreds of movies. I am going to review hundreds of movies on this channel. None of them will click off all 10 as far as I know and in my current understanding of movies. But in this, the 2 primary ones on this are the directing and the script. As I said before, the directing by Michael Curtiz. He's got the camera moving, inviting us into Rick's place. He just gets right up in the face, like no other director. He gets right up in the face of the actors all the time. So we're getting their feelings and their emotions. And it's almost in every scene he does that. It's almost striking. I mean, you almost like sort of jerked back. You're so close to these characters. It kind of makes you wonder how the characters themselves felt about having a camera right up on them. I mean, you know, noticing every wrinkle except for lovely Ingrid Bergman. Ooh, goodness gracious, I could look at her face all day long. But the directing is magnificent. Just the film noir shots and the movement and the angles from balconies and other places, just extraordinary. Even down below looking up. So Michael Curtiz, his directing on this is equal to any other directors in cinematic history. The writing on this, and when I say writing, I break it down into story, drama, and writing. The story itself is phenomenal. As I've mentioned already before, it's the unfolding of Rick, but then you have all these other things going on, the secondary characters telling us something about Rick, but the story itself is compelling. And then you've got the drama. The drama, scene after scene, is just, it builds like a good Shakespeare play. It builds. So you have like Act 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, with the drama building in each one. And of course, when Ilsa and Laszlo walk into Rick's place at like minute 25, the drama and intensity magnify, and of course the mystery magnifies, and it's done extraordinarily. And then the writing, of course, there's no other movie that's even close to this one in one-liners. I stopped counting at about 4 dozen, at 48, the one-liners in this movie.
I'm shocked to find that gambling is going on in here.
Yeah, it's just too many to count. And the one-liners aren't just throwaways. They are essential to each scene and to letting us know, in most cases, about the characters themselves.
I am a little more impressed with you.
And I think where this movie also excels, and this has to do with the director, is the pacing. The pacing in this movie is electric. I mean, it is electrified. And it goes from tension to comedy, back to tension, back to comedy. And I think one of the greatest examples of this is that whole sequence. It's about maybe 6 minutes, 5-6 minutes, where you've got Rick and Laszlo having that conversation about who's got Rick says he's not going to give over the letters of he's not going to sell the letters of transit to Laszlo. Then it shoots over to the Germans. All of a sudden the Germans are singing. Then we've got Laszlo in front of the front of the band, that whole thing. Then we've got Strasser coming in and saying, shut down the place. Louis, of course, making his wonderful, famous line right there. So you got your tension, comedy, and then it shoots over to very quickly to Strasser confronting Ilsa and her showing her courage. So that sequence right there shows what kind of pacing this movie has, but it's that kind of pacing throughout. It's never boring. This movie has no fat in it. And the acting, of course, is just extraordinary in this movie. It is equal to any other movie ever. I'm not going to really go into that, but here's just a few scenes on the acting.
Of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world, she walks into mine.
Put them on the table.
I like to think that you killed a man. It's the romantic in me.
A very nice idea.
We know that every French province in Africa is honeycombed with traitors, waiting for their chance, waiting perhaps for a leader.
Well, things are very bad there, monsieur. The devil has the people by the throat.
Leave him alone, Miss Elsa. You bad luck tonight.
I mean, it's just, you just don't get any better than that. So it is equal, and I'm not even going to go into all the names and everything. You can look that up if you want to. The musical score on this movie is also extraordinary. Max Steiner did a wonderful job. He did a sort of orchestral take on As Time Goes By.
Is that can on fire? Or is
is it? My heart pounding.
It's a new German 77, but judging by the sound, only about 35 miles away.
And it's wonderful. He plays it a lot, and then he has a bunch of, he does tension great in this. And then, of course, the movie itself mixes several songs in this as time goes by.
You must remember this.
Knock on Wood and a couple of other ones, and Karina has a song or two in there. It's really nice, showing the ambiance of Rick's place. Simply wonderful. And then, of course, the characters in this movie. There are just so many wonderful characters. You've got Emile, the roulette guy, the roulette Fruppe, I think. Croupe is what it's called. A couple of great scenes with him. Carl, lovely, sweet Carl, whom we find out is a leader of the underground, or he's in the underground movement, and you never would have thought it, but it brings home the drama of what happens to people in war. So that's fleshed out quite nicely. You've got a Nina and Jan, the Bulgarian folks, young Bulgarian newlyweds trying to get out, and that wonderful scene where Rick saves Nina from her virtue, from having to sleep with Louis. Louis is a wonderful character. But that scene also shows the magnanimity of Rick. So that's part of the unfolding. And then you've got all those people who love what Rick's doing there. Carl and Sasha, sweet Sasha, the bartender, who's loyal. And then Yvonne, of course. Wonderful scenes with her. And then Louis himself, who has the most one-liners in this movie.
But I'll be in tomorrow night with a breathtaking blonde. And it'll make me very happy if she loses.
Just a wonderful character. Is he corrupt? I'm just a poor corrupt official.
Make it 10. I'm only a poor corrupt official.
Is he? Well, he kicks over the trash can at the end of the movie with the Vichy bottle in it. So maybe Louis was just doing what he had to do to survive, like so many people in this movie in the time of war. They seem like they're on the side of the bad people, but they're playing along until they don't have to play along anymore. And of course, that allows Louis and Rick to be friends. That famous line at the very end of the movie.
Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
This whole movie is, as I said before about Rick, all of these secondary characters, brilliant, just exquisitely written characters, exquisitely acted. They bring out something in Rick's character. They advance the movie along. And of course, the one who does that the most is Ilsa, wonderfully portrayed by Ingrid Bergman, and of course Humphrey Bogart as Rick. And but that whole love affair, we find out that is what caused him to be this closed, hard-shelled guy. And isn't that brilliantly done? There's nothing in this movie that slaps you in the face. This is a smart movie. This is the smartest movie that's ever been made. You have to think in this movie, what's going on? And the mystery in it. There was a couple of times where Ilsa could tell Rick what happened in Paris, why she left him with that Dear John letter after their romance in Paris. But he insults her, so she doesn't tell him. And then outside of Ferraris, she tells him part of the story, drops a small bomb on him. She had been married, but she doesn't say that she had found out, and at that time, that Laszlo was still alive. So she could have gone further with it, but she doesn't. This is brilliant writing again. So that now we're still sympathetic of Rick. We think, what happened? I mean, he's got a right to be upset that maybe he got jilted. So the mystery there is just wonderful. And the way the writers take us through this is this denouement, this unfolding is extraordinary. And of course, the whole time with Strasser and the Germans in the background, everybody's in danger. Laszlo is a courageous man. He's not a stick figure, though. That's another great thing about this movie. He's got warmth, the way he is with Ilsa. And again, as a secondary character, it's whatever he does is eventually related back to Rick. He says, "I love you" to Ilsa twice.
I love you very much, Ilsa.
Your secret will be safe with me.
I love you very much, my dear.
Yes. Yes, I know.
And in both times, she does not say, "I love you" back. Brilliant, again, writing. This leaves the door open for us for Rick to get with Ilsa, for us to be able to vicariously enjoy that, want that to happen. But how does that happen? How do you bring out the denouement in this movie? What is Rick going to do after she tells him, "You're going to have to think for both of us," in that
I don't know what's right any longer. You have to think for both of us.
extraordinary scene in his sort of room office above the cafe after she points the gun at him?
I will. Here's looking at you, kid.
And she finally relinquishes, and she just can't take it anymore. She's in love with him, and he's going to have to do the thinking. But what is he going to do? What kind of thinking is he going to do?
You know how you sound, Mr. Blaine? Like a man who's trying to convince himself of something he doesn't believe in his heart.
Is he going to run off with her, take the letters of transit?
Seems that destiny has taken a hand.
We don't know. I mean, the mystery is exquisite.
Right at your heart.
That is my least vulnerable spot.
And of course, he does make the right decision, but we're not really sure that's going to happen. But he finally does. We're in that famous airport scene.
Inside of us, we both know you belong with Victor. You're part of his work, the thing that keeps him going.
But what about us?
We'll always have Paris. Ilsa, I'm no good at being noble, but it doesn't take much to see that the problems of three little people don't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy world.
So all the way through this movie, and all 24 major scenes of this movie, it plays out with extraordinary pacing, terrific tension, great humor, phenomenal acting, phenomenal directing. There is just no flaw in this movie. It is, by all accounts, in my account, the perfect movie, the only perfect movie in cinematic history, because it does all of these things perfectly. No flaws to speak of in this movie. And I think, never, ever be able to say that again about a movie. Casablanca is perfection. I look forward to hearing what y'all have to say. Take care of yourselves. Bye now.